Welcome. All right. Today I'm going to talk about the Brahma Viharas, and connection comes with a charge. That's the title of the talk. The Brahma Viharas are a teaching in Buddhism, looking at the internal dwellings or houses or places that feel good. Most often thought of as sacred, like an inner temple, an inner church, an inner mosque, or natural setting, nature setting. Those places in us which just really make our hearts sing and also just feel mildly good to content. Because really, if we look at ourselves, and this is common understanding, is we as humans tend to move towards what feels good and away from what feels bad. And often we don't know a lot about how we feel about things that are in between or in the middle or more neutral. They can feel often boring, empty, confusing, or simply be missed if it's not at kind of good or bad or at the extremes, pleasant or unpleasant. And I wonder how many times that we're content with our lives, with our partners, with our relationships, and the world that we live in, and we just miss it because it's not grabbing our attention. So yesterday we landed on the word connection as as it is interlaced with the teaching of equanimity, which is one of the Brahma Viharas. And we also brought in the word inclusivity. I've heard it translated as patience. So there's really a large spectrum of the way we can look at equanimity. It's just a really interesting internal quality. Um, and with connection being put into the mix, I'm still churning on that, like almost like, milk into butter. How did these things, connection, which to me seems very charged, and equanimity, which is much more neutral or, even, how are they related? So I want to look at some of the charge. And the charge comes from um, a few places, but one way it's talked about in Buddhism is connection is seen as attachment, what we're attached to, and that's talked about a lot in the early suttas and throughout the teachings. And attaching is related to detaching. There's a lot of meditation instructions around attach or detach. And also, they have a lot of meaning, both words in our modern context. But I'll look at it at the ancient meaning, at the Pali term here, which is upadana. This is the term for connection and attachment. And it often gets translated as grasping or clinging. Those are the common translations. And I have a very visceral reaction to clinging and grasping. They have a charge, like we cling to what feels good, like Velcro. Um, we grasp things that we like as if we have claws. We thirst for things like an alcoholic. It's often talked in this very extreme language. And while I know those inner states, it's not like they don't occur to me within my repertoire of experience. They are on one end of this word attachment and clinging. They're really not a middle way. And when I was writing this talk and putting this together, this often happens with writing a talk. I have all these things I want to say, and I have no idea what I'm going to say until I start sorting through things and just pulling a few threads together. And one of the thoughts I had today about the extremes was I'm really grateful for my former teacher. His name is Jason Siff. Some of you know him, some of you don't. But he started our training with broadening the definitions of words. And I learned that, right off the bat, like open up the definition of something. And he opened up the definition of meditation from a very specific task that you do to whatever happens when you sit down, lie down, rest with the intention to meditate. That's meditation. And I remember hearing that going, what? No, 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 you have to do this to meditate. But at the time, this was the late 90s, that was something people hadn't been talking about or hadn't opened up meditation in that way. And so I've learned a lot of his translations, and one of his translations, I'm jumping to back to attachment and connection, and the word upadana, was he brought in this translation of taking up or not taking up. And to me, it has just a much more neutral way. It's a much more neutral way of talking about what we connect to, what we attach to. That we might be at times very attached to something, getting closer to it, being immersed in it, really drowning in it, so to speak. But at other times, it's just much more neutral. We're contented with it, or we're not that connected to it anymore. We used to be attached to it. So it seems like this taking up concept or provisional understanding of the word attachment really allows us to explore it, to look at it differently, to have much more neutrality about the word, about what we connect with and what we don't, rather than just staying into, oh, I'm clinging to something, or oh, I'm so, I'm grasping and, I have to get rid of it and it has my claw marks on it. I mean, these are just things that I've heard over the years of the way we can make connection something more extreme. Now, attachment's also a big deal in psychology. And we're very, influenced by the world of psychology, as it's defined by John Bowlby, the founder of attachment theory. He says it like this: it's a deep and enduring emotional bond that connects one person to another across time and space. That's very charged to me. I mean, I want that, just hearing that. It's like, okay. Eh, but he goes on to say, in attachment theory, we have our own preferred styles. And those styles are usually the result of our childhood conditioning. Um, Really how our caregivers related to us when we were young. And it was what we were learning about with independence, with dependence, with receiving and giving. I mean, connection is so much a part of love and support, and affection. It's really a large topic. So again, very charged from when we're looking at what does attachment and connection mean. Um, and then I went to, oh, we're looking at attachment in psychology about feeling secure within the way we attach, feeling more calm and equanimous with the people and the things that are in our lives that we have connection with. So I thought, and this is my provisional understanding this morning, is that secure is a connection word. And it's a connection word that's akin to equanimity. And I'm just going to go back to one of the questions I started with, or my wonderings, is how often do we overlook the ways we connect when we're feeling secure and contented? It's hard to pay attention to things that are going well, that are just kind of moving on, and that we don't have much problem with, or they're not screaming at us, and they don't have a large, a really loud charge, or a big bang, or a dot, dot, dot. I'm going to end here. We'll have time to practice as we usually do on these daily online